Yeah. So, good evening and welcome from London Buddhist Centre. My name's Mahamani, and yeah, I'm really kind of quite excited because we're here for a very special occasion this evening to welcome back ex-Rebecca, Vijayacittā, to the order, to the LBC. She was ordained on the 28th, had a public ceremony on the 28th of September. So this evening, we're going to be welcoming her back. I'm in the reception area, the bookshop at the moment. The whole of the thing isn't going to take place from there, but there's actually something very special that's going to take place in the courtyard just now, and then we'll all go into the shrine room and I'll tell you a little bit more about the rest of the evening. So we'll go out into the courtyard now.
Sukhi hontu sabe sata, 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 Sukhi hontu sabe
So welcome again. I'm going to take my mask off at this point. So welcome again, and yeah, what a beautiful warm welcome to Vijayacittā that was just out in the courtyard. I know it's a little chilly out there, but it felt really beautiful and lots of energy. So as you all realise, there are some of Vijayacitta's friends here this evening to welcome her back. And so, yes, in a few moments, I'm going to hand over to Josamati, and she's going to just talk a little bit about the importance of ordination and the coming back and what's so wonderful about this evening, really. And then we're actually going to hear from ex-Rebecca Vijayacittā around her experience. She's going to talk for a while, and then we'll have a short break at the end of that. And then I'm really delighted that Vijayacittā is going to actually lead us in a threefold puja here in the shrine room, in which you can join in at home. So I'm not going to say any more because there isn't really any need to say any more, but I'll hand over to you, Josamati.
Thank you, Mahamani. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the London Buddhist Centre. It's really nice to have some real people here and to have you here on YouTube as well. It's a little bit strange, but it's felt really, really important that we welcome Vijayacittā back to the LBC, such as it is in these unusual COVID times of ours. We can still do it. So firstly, I'd like to say thank you so much to the tech team. Really, really grateful that you're making this happen, because actually we can't have lots of people at the centre. Usually we'd have loads of people at one of these welcome backs, but thanks to you, we can, but in a slightly different way, virtually, obviously. So it's really lovely to have you here. It's, as I said, it's really, really nice to have real people here as well, especially one particular person, Vijayacittā. So I'll crack on. I want to, as Mahamani said, talk a little bit about ordination. Ordination, particularly in the Triratna Buddhist movement, and I'll touch a little bit on Vijayacittà's ordination. Well, our connection, if you like, and her asking me to be her preceptor. Let's start with ordination itself. So when one asks for ordination, one is saying that, or for example, when I ask for ordination, when men and women all over the world ask for ordination, we're saying that our Buddhist practice is the most important thing in our lives. It's central to our lives. Really, really important, if not the most important thing. And not only are we asking for ordination into a Buddhist order, it's a very particular Buddhist order. It's the Triratna Buddhist order. So it's a very particular context. It's Sangharakshita's order and his presentation of the Dharma. And we're asking to, I was going to say formally be a part of that. I suppose we are doing that, but we're doing much more than that. So I thought it was also really important to say actually that when somebody asks to join the order, those of us already in the order, we really want you to join the order. We really, really welcome that request and that step on a spiritual path. And many men and women all over the world ask for ordination, and many don't. Many people are involved with Triratna centres and groups, and they decide not to ask for ordination. It's entirely, your path is entirely up to you. So you're not coerced in any way to join the order. It's not compulsory, but if you do decide that you want to join, then we welcome that. We welcome that wholeheartedly. And as I said, what you're doing is you're saying, yes, Buddhist practice, my Buddhist practice in this context is really, really important, if not the most important thing in my life. And we are talking about practice. We're not just talking about ideas. We're talking about living every minute of our lives, or at least aiming to live every minute of our lives ethically, responsibly, wholeheartedly, following in the Buddha's footsteps. So, having asked to join the order, one embarks on a training. And that training can take any number of years. It might take somebody 3 years, it might take somebody 30 years. It's a bit of an unknown. But there are things that, very particular things that we do. We can go on retreat. There's a very rich study program that men and women embark on. There are ordination retreats. So you can go to centres in Wales or in Norfolk and other places, and you can engage in a training with other men and women who are also in training themselves. Yeah, so we get to know the order a bit better. We get to know ourselves a bit better, but we get to know each other a bit better as well. We get to know those other men and women training to join the order. And one of the distinctive, and you could even say radical features of the order is that both men and women are ordained with equal status. And women ordain women and men ordain men. It's very, very particular. It's also not a monastic order. So although if you did see the public ceremony, we were wearing robes, it's not a monastic order. In a way, we did it for simplicity. I actually really, really enjoyed wearing the robe. Initially, I was a little bit, this is a bit strange. I'm not a nun. But actually, there was something, the ritual element, we wore them mainly in the shrine room, but also really the simplicity. You didn't have to think every day, well, what am I going to wear today? How do I look in this? It was, it's the robe. And they're very beautiful, actually. They're very beautiful. They're very comfortable. As I say, simplifies things, helps us, means we can just focus on the work at hand, really. Anyway, we're a very diverse order. There are men and women who have joined the order from all over the world. There's always room for more diversity in our order, but I think we've made a fairly good start, and we can continue in that vein if people want to join. So, yes. So I wanted to say a little bit about, I'm looking over there because Vijayacittà's over there. I wanted to say a little bit about our meeting. So Vijayacittà and I met through Sunday school. So I was running a Sunday school, and Vijayacittà and Alfie started coming along, and along with many other men and women and children, we formed a friendship. Vijayacittà and I particularly formed a friendship. Practicing as a parent with other parents is a real blessing. I can say, I can say from experience. But Vijayacittà and I had a particularly good connection quite quickly. I think we have a lot in common. We share a lot of enthusiasm, and we share our love for the Dharma, but we also shared our love for helping our children to embrace the Dharma as well, in whatever way was appropriate. The Dharma, as we know, the Buddha's teaching is for everybody. And whether I'm in school or whether I'm at Sunday school with Vijayacittà and Alfie, we're planting seeds. And, who knows when those seeds might come to fruition. And seeds for ourselves as well. I've learned as much through being at Sunday school as I hope I've been able to communicate to others, children and adults, because our adult turnout at Sunday school is also quite high. People want the Dharma in all different forms, so whether it's crafting or in ritual or meditating. whatever suits us at whatever time. Thank you. Thank you. Mahamani's gone to get me some water. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we met, we became friends. We spent time together socially. We spent time together with our children. We spent time together at classes. We spent time together on retreat. Somewhere along the way, a little over 2 years ago, Vijayacittā asked me if I would be her preceptor, if I would ordain her, if I would invite her into the order formally. So in her asking, she's saying that she wants to deepen her practice, her spiritual practice, her Buddhist practice. She's saying she wants to do it in the context of Triratna, and she's saying that she wants me to witness that. And I was really, really delighted to do that, really, really happy to do that. And in a way, even in the asking, just in that very thing itself, she's intensifying her own practice. It's a bit of a depth charge. If you say to somebody, this is really, really important to me, and I want you to witness that. And I want to find ways and practice with others in finding ways to gain more insight, gain more understanding, be the best person that I can be. And I want to do it in this context. So for her, even in the asking, I think her practice was intensified. But for me, in her asking me, my practice was intensified. So here was this woman taking me really seriously, taking my practice really seriously. Of course, I had to then take myself really seriously and take my practice really seriously. So we had this dual depth charge happening at the same time. And we went on this journey together. Not always a smooth journey, it has to be said, but a very rich one, and one that I was absolutely delighted, and it was such an honor to walk that path with her. And we still walk that path, of course, because now she's in the order, and that our friendship, of course, will continue and grow and develop. So the ceremony itself is in two parts, and the first part is the private ceremony. So that's the part that I'm most involved with. So the very, very simple ceremony where offerings are made, the traditional offerings of a flower, a candle, and some incense. It's private, as the name suggests. She and I are in just a small place called a kuti, with a shrine that's been made especially for the occasion. And Vijayacittā recites, I recite some Pali and some English, and Vijayacittā responds in the traditional way. I give her her name. That's very significant. I give her her name because she wasn't always Vijayacittā. I'm very, very pleased to say that she loved her name. I'll let her say more about that later. But I've been thinking about her, obviously, for a long time in this particular context of joining the order. And when we join the order, we're given a new name. In a way, we're making a new start. We're becoming, in a way, a new person, symbolically, of course. So I actually spent probably the whole of those 2 years after she asked me, contemplating that name. And interestingly, it came to me very quickly, but I just stayed with it. And the more I was with that name, the more I thought it was her. But anyway, that's enough of that from me. Let her tell you more about it. What I was doing was I was witnessing her going for refuge. I was witnessing her commitment. I was witnessing her taking the precepts. When we join the order, we take 10 precepts. So they're an extension of the 5 that you probably know well already, the 5 precepts. We're formally taking on those precepts, those training principles, and we're aiming for the rest of our lives, really, to live by those principles. And of course, sometimes we slip, sometimes we fail, but we keep trying. And we've got our friends in the order and in the Sangha to help us. We help each other, we support each other, we grow together. So she goes for refuge and she takes the precepts. That, in a way, is the heart of the ceremony. She goes for refuge to the Buddha, to the Dharma, to the Sangha, and she takes those 10 precepts, those 10 training principles. Of course, why wouldn't anybody want to live their life with deeds of loving kindness? There's very much an altruistic dimension to joining the order, to taking the precepts, and for deepening our individual going for refuge, which leads us to the public ordination. So having done this ceremony privately, if you like, I know people have often talked about, well, if there was nobody else in the world who was going to practice, she would still do it anyway. It was her acknowledgement and her promise, if you like, to practice and to deepen her understanding of the Buddha's teachings. But then, having done that, we publicly proclaim. There's a public ordination as well, and some of you may well have seen it. Unusually, it was very public because that also was streamed live. Often they're smaller affairs, but it was incredible that we had the opportunity to be so public in a way. So many people could witness not only Vijayacitta's public ordination, but we had 16 women on that day joining the order. So that was extraordinary. And we were at Adhisthana. So there's a time for another quick shout out, because that retreat took place at Adhisthana and the public ordinations took place at Adhisthana. And it was quite complex having 30 women on retreat, keeping to go COVID guidelines very, very firmly and strictly. But the Adhisthana community worked so hard to make that retreat, well, to make it compliant, first of all, but more importantly, to make it a very, very beautiful, rich, inspiring opportunity, actually, for all of us to practice. So I'm very, very grateful to them. So the public ordination, Vijayacittā and the 15 other women are then publicly saying, yes, I've been invited to join the order. The women in the order that know me have witnessed me, have understood and felt very deeply that my practice resonates with their practice, and they've invited me to join the order. And having done so, I'm now going public, as it were. So that the ceremony marks the fact that Vijayacittā actually, although she may, when she gets the opportunity, spend time quietly meditating or quietly on retreat, actually, as I said at the public ordination, she's a force for good in the world, and she wants to put her practice into practice. Yeah, she wants to, maybe that's enough to say. She wants to be a force for good in the world, and she wants to do that through her Buddhist practice. So, probably enough from me. That's a good time. Just double check. Yes, that's a good time to hand over to Vijayacittā. Welcome to the order. Welcome to the London Buddhist Centre, Vijayacittā. I think this is Vijayacitta's first time at the London Buddhist Centre. So it's really lovely to have you here. I'll hand over to you. Thank
you, Smeti. Oh, well, I was downstairs on my own, just contemplating this welcome back and feeling quite nervous. And then I suddenly realised that this evening is a tremendous gift. It's a tremendous gift for me. And it's a wonderful opportunity to be in the shrine room with some of my friends and family and people that are close to me. And as Jyotismati said, it's been a little bit of a strange ordination. But I think probably lots of people would say their own ordinations were a little bit out of the ordinary, because our public ordination was, I think, live viewed by about 550 people from all over the world. And I know that lots more people have seen it on YouTube. So I'm also really aware that I've got a camera in front of me and a big light. Yeah. And I was thinking earlier on today that the last time, I think it was Vijayacittā, were you ordained 2 or 3 years ago? 2 years ago, I was in this shrine room, and I think Garavati, Savana Jyoti and Vijayacittā were welcomed back at that welcome back ceremony. And I was here with Alfie, and I think Esther was also here with her children. And I remember Subhadramati was trying to get us all in the shrine room. There were about 100 people in here, and trying to get everyone to kind of fill in from the side. And Esther and I, we kind of hung out near the door because we had our children with us. But what was interesting about that welcome back, there were 2 things. One was that I bumped into Surya Gupta in the cloakroom, and I felt the need to feel slightly shy about the fact that I brought Alfie here. And I said to her, oh, I've brought Alfie here, and kind of see how it goes. And then she looked at me a bit oddly. And when I reflected on it, I thought, why am I, this is Alfie's centre as much as mine. He's been here as much as me. And one of the things that I hold dear to my heart is that this is a centre that welcomes everybody. And if sometimes it's a bit noisy and messy, then that's what happens. And also when I was sat there with Alfie, and I think we were sat pretty much where Alfie sat now, welcoming back the 3 new order members, I think I might have said something along the lines of to Alfie that we might be here one day welcoming me back. And yeah, I did. And I'm not sure if I absolutely 100% believed that at that time, I have to say. So here we are. Now Alfie was slightly concerned, I think, that I was going off up the mountain for 3 months. And I said, no, it's okay. I'll be going on a shorter retreat. So actually, I did think at the time, is it going to be possible for me to be sat here being welcomed back? And so here I am, living proof that it is possible. So if you're in the ordination process, it is possible. I'm very happy to be here. And Jyotismati has already started by expressing her thanks to people, but firstly, I can't thank everybody. So I'm generally just thanking every living being in the world just to start off with, because as soon as I start naming people, then there's people that I can't name. So yeah, firstly, the universe for making an ordination retreat possible in the middle of COVID. Again, I had about a month's notice, and I think that was good in the fact that I didn't have that long to be in that unknown about whether it was going to happen. But also, as has already been said, the Adhisthana crew. So there was something really magical about being at Adhisthana. I think there were a few more sweeties on my retreat than there may have been up the mountain, which is a good or a bad thing depending. But yeah, just great thanks to the Adhisthana crew. They all worked very hard. And I remember Shubhavyuha really instilled in all of the ordinands and the prospective preceptors and team that were there, that we really had a great responsibility to act in the best possible way we could while we were there. So in the middle of the night when I was, thinking, oh, do I have to wipe down the surfaces in the bathroom? Or, another mask. I remembered that there were plenty of people who haven't been able to go on retreat and are actually waiting to go on retreat. And we all felt a great sense of responsibility and gratitude on while we were there. And, and all of the team there that took on our jobs during the 2 days of the private ordination, cooked amazing food, to James, to Caroline, to Lizzie, to, everyone that's there. Just a big thank you to them if they're watching. I want to thank Jyotismati, she is my private preceptor, and Shantavadri, my public preceptor. And and I think everybody at the LBC who might be watching or who might watch on catch up, that I've had the pleasure of spending quite a few years practicing at the LBC, and sometimes that's been bumping up against them, but that's our practice. I think Harvey or somebody said on retreat that, you know, the order, the movement is our practice. So there's been bumping up. There's been, you know, generally it's around, you know, might have Sunday school and the kids are being really rowdy and people are trying to meditate. Or, you know, you've got a festival day and you've got all the food out and then a horde of hungry kids come out of a shrine room and we try to stop them eating everything. But generally, or you've got, I know that Esther's here, so you've got glitter between your toes when you're doing yoga, because before the glitter was banned for very good reasons. It's not good for the environment. I want to thank my KM, my Kalyana Mitras, Vanjana Jyoti, you might be watching in Ratnaloka, and Dira Prabha, who could be watching in New Zealand, and a shout out to the North London Buddhist Centre and Mid Essex and Banaraji, and everyone that I've met on my path to ordination, and to Bhante Sangharakshita, who's the founder of our order, who I had a few chats with around his burial mound while I was at Adhisthana, which is part of the reason it's such an amazing place to be. Yeah. So I don't have very long. I've got a few points. I might have to cut some things out. Yeah, my journey or my path to get here. It's always difficult to kind of to know what to share, really. And I want to be honest in what I share, but also just to hold that very lightly. So, you know, I found the ordination process really difficult at times. I found it really difficult. There were times when I was furious. I was furious with the dukkha of it. And I was actually having a conversation with somebody who's in the process as well. And they said, oh, I don't know why I expected the ordination process not to be unsatisfactory or not to be subject to dukkha. I thought that's actually quite a wise thing. So it has been difficult, but it is worth it. It is worth it. And actually there's something about transforming that energy, and there's also something about being a force for good. So I love the way Jyotirmati said, you know, if people ask, we want people in the order, and I'm sat here with my friends as well in the shrine room, and yeah, there's something about being a force for good. And I definitely wasn't going to be going on an ordination retreat in September this year. That was one of the things. And then I ended up being on an ordination retreat in September of this year. And, you know, I was very, very grateful and happy that it turned out that way. So it didn't turn out the way I was expecting it to, which is a lesson in itself. And also I think it's important, I think for me, it's not the only context of my practice, but I'm a working mother. I have a family, and my process has mainly been while I've been working, while I have a family. I don't know if my family in Melbourne are watching because of 5 a.m. local time, but a shout out to especially Matu and Sina, but also I'll come on to Alfie, but also to my own mother, who probably isn't watching, who's had her own health issues recently. But actually what she gave me was a real kind of just real love. I think a real kind of forerunner to metta, to loving kindness for kind of all living beings. And also to Alfie, who's here, who you'll be hearing from during the puja, who just is a constant source of inspiration for my practice. And yeah, I mean, as the Karyana Metta Sutta, as strongly as a mother, perhaps risking her life, cherishes her child, develop an unlimited heart for all living beings. And I think if you hold one thing of the Dharma importantly in your life, you wouldn't go far wrong with developing an unlimited heart for all living beings. And that's what the context of my family and family Sangha at the LBC in the North London Centre and beyond has given me. And I wanted to say a little bit Well, it was suggested that I talk about the spiritual significance of ordination, and I'm not sure I feel really up to that. And also, Vijayacittā sent me a message earlier saying, just be yourself. But the problem is, having gone through a spiritual death and rebirth, I'm not actually quite sure. I'm not actually quite sure who myself is. About the feelings about ordination. In a sense, we talk about spiritual death and rebirth, and they're quite kind of heady terms in some respect. But there definitely feels like I feel different since I've come back, and I'm still, that's unfolding. I mean, I had an experience of a general anaesthetic over the summer, and I remember at the time thinking, this is a really good practice for death. Because 1 minute you're there and then you're not, and then you just come back again. And it's a kind of like I understand they still don't know what actually happens during a general anaesthetic. And it feels a bit like I've kind of come back, and I'm still working out from the mystery, the beauty, the beauty of Adhisthana, if you've been, the landscape, the rainbows that just, the sunsets, the sunrises that just seem to bless us on the entire retreat. There was a little bit of a hailstorm which I got caught in the day before the private ceremony, as I was on top of the hill. I had to shelter because I was being hit by these big hailstones, and then it just cleared, and then we were just blessed with this kind of beautiful, beautiful sunshine. And it felt a bit like something was on our side for us to be able to be practicing in that context, amidst everything that's going on in the world. And I kind of feel a bit like I've come back, and it was a very short retreat. It was 10 days. I was away for 2 weeks. I went to stay with Vijayacittā and to kind of spend some time kind of in solitary. But I feel a bit like I've come back, and I feel a bit like I'm out of sync with the world. I feel slightly like I'm still, it's like the world's spinning a bit faster, and I feel a bit like I'm still trying to kind of find out where I am, or where my place is. And as I said, I was downstairs looking, and I caught a reflection of myself in the glass door with my caser on, and actually Mahamani said it's my first outing to the LBC, a place which is really very familiar to me over many years, but actually is, none of us have been here for quite some time anyway. So Vijayacittā is, I've written it in big letters on my notes to remind myself that is my name. Mahamani called me on Friday and she was like, Vijayacittā, have you got used to your new name yet? And for a split second, I didn't know who she was talking to. And then I remembered that was my new name. So no, I have not got used to my new name. And I think that it's going to be a gradual unfolding and a kind of gradual growing into the name. I don't want to, I mean, let's be honest, I was a bit anxious before the Ordination Retreat as to what name I was going to get. And I was in the kuti. I think Vijayacittā was very relieved, and I was pleased with it. And I was in the kuti, and Vijayacittā said it the first time, and there was a moment where I was like, sorry? And then she said it 2 more times, Vijayacittā, Vijayacittā. And then she said, one whose heart-mind is victorious. And I can feel myself welling up now, because I cried, actually, because I thought it was such a beautiful name. It was better than any name that I could have thought that I would have given myself. But I thought I might get a heart in my name. And I was just like, over the next couple of days, I was like, she's very clever. Heart, mind. Yeah, very clever. I mean, obviously we were in silence. So I mean, I was kind of walking around Bante's mound actually, and I kind of told the universe, told whatever consciousness might be around Bante's name that Vijayacittā had given me. I think I got positive energy back from that. So it's one whose heart, mind is victorious, and it kind of, the significance for me is partly, I think it might get me into a whole lot more trouble than I would already be getting into, because there's that kind of sense of being victorious. And we did end up climbing the tree at Adhisthana. I think if you know that tree, it doesn't look very high, but when you're up it, the little ladder, it is quite difficult to get down. And I was just like, no, we were in silence. We were part way through the private ordinations. We had another session, I think, of ordinands having their private ordination. I said to Jyotismati, come, let's go and climb the tree. And only Jyotismati and I knew that was my name. And then, of course, we're up the tree, and then I was quite concerned that I wasn't going to be able to get back down the tree. And I had to get back down because I had to get back to the shrine room. But somebody did remind me that it's being victorious in the Dharma and in the three jewels. And actually, it's for me as well, it's that I go for refuge, that I give all of myself to my practice. And I think Jyotismati, you said when you introduced me on the public ordination that when I'm with somebody, I try to be with them with my whole heart, mind, with my whole emotional and my thinking brain. And I think that's a practice in itself. And I think there will be I know there's going to be a gradual unfolding of what my name means. Just a bit aware of the time, but so I've got, some people saw me get on the telly, as Esther said, and there is that altruistic dimension of joining the order, which I think is the bit that maybe I'm kind of still kind of trying to find my place in. And the symbols here for anyone maybe on YouTube who isn't really au fait with them, it's the three jewels, the Buddha, who taught the Dharma, who gained enlightenment himself and taught the Dharma, the Dharma or the teaching, and the Sangha. So in some contexts, the kind of Sangha of the Triratna movement, but the Sangha of all people who follow Buddhism, and the red lotus to symbolise the importance of spiritual friendship. And in getting the case, you're really saying you're stepping out into the world. And it was actually quite difficult. Even on a 10-day retreat, I felt quite inward and quite introvert, and it was such a beautiful time from the private ordination and the 2 days of silence. And plus that it was being live streamed, so it wasn't just that we were in the courtyard. And also the first time I found myself telling somebody that I joined the Triratna Buddhist order was at the services on the M40 when Jyotismati and I were driving back to London. And I haven't really got time to tell you the story, but I mean, I do think it was quite interesting that I just had this connection with this guy on the coffee, we get coffee, on the coffee, and we just had a really strong connection. I thought, well, he asked me where I've been and what I've been doing, and I thought, well, I'll just tell him. So I wasn't quite expecting to be able to explain that soon. But Parami also said on retreat, to wear the kesa with pride, because it does symbolise something. And those of you that know me know that I discovered that I was a Buddhist when I was in Nepal, and we talk about the Buddha's traditional 4 sights. And if we can all be a 4th sight for somebody, whether we wear a kesa or not, we can all be a 4th sight. We can all lead people to maybe explore the Dharma and practice in a way that might help them in their lives. And I think, the world needs a lot more metta and loving kindness. And obviously joining the order, we're joining a Sangha, and it's been a really amazing year in some respects, because we've all connected up much more in ways that we thought we never would be able to. So my own KM ceremony was partly zoomed in by Dira Prabha, and although we've also had COVID this year, but we've also had the death of George Floyd, which has, I think, provoked some really thought-provoking conversations in Triratna, in the movement and the order. And the positive thing about that's come out for me is that we're connecting, we're focusing more, I think, on, or hopefully on, what connects us rather than what divides us. And there seems to be a renewed emphasis on, say, for example, understanding the role of Dr. Ambedkar and caste in India. So I doubt there's any Indian. There were some Indian people from Indian Sangha watching the public ordination. So if they are watching, then Jai Bhim. And I'm going to close because I'm running out of time. And I I just want to read, I talked about the Dharma, and there are just two small extracts that I want to read. So one's from the Gandhavyuha Sutra, and it's rejoicing in the merits of spiritual friends. It is hard to find, even in hundreds of lifetimes, such friends as these I have now met. I will attend my friends as a servant. I will approach my friends with a mind like the earth, with a mind like the full moon. And a slight quote, edited quote from Milarepa. I'm sure Milarepa wouldn't mind. May hell not beat down upon you. May winds blow me not away. Inspired by the Dharma, may we soon meet face to face again in prosperity and boon. May I make good progress and you all live long. Inspired by the Dharma, may we soon meet face to face again in prosperity and boon.
Am I back on? Yeah. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for such a beautiful, beautiful talk that just expressed so much of both your journey towards ordination, what inspires you, that victorious heart mind, which just shone through so much. And yes, your humour as well. And I just need to ask, were you actually wearing your cater at the motorway service station? I just had visions of you. I can wear it wherever I want. I hadn't thought of that. Yes. Okay. And I also want to thank Vijayacittā as well, because I thought that was such a beautiful introduction to the whole meaning of ordination. And I think it just showed the strength of your friendship. I'm looking at both of you, the strength of the friendship and why Vijayacittā actually asked Vijayacittā to be her private preceptor. It makes utter sense. So there's only one thing we need to do before we go to the break. We're going to have a break in a moment and we'll come back at 5 to 8. So if you need to have a kind of comfort break, but there's just one more thing we need to do before the break. Lots of time having invested in the studies for you. So thank you to everybody who dropped it off at the centre. So we'll have a short break and we'll be back here at 5 to 8. Okay, thank you.
watching from home, let's do the shrine of the three jewels of unison. My friends and family here were doing it inwardly from their hearts. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Namah, Om Ahum. So the people at home can respond as heartily as they wish, but in the shrine room, we'll have to respond quietly. Threefold puja. Firstly, worship with Mandarava, blue lotus and jasmine. With all flowers pleasing and fragrant. And with garlands skillfully woven. I pay honour to the princes of the sages. So worthy of veneration. I envelop them in clouds of incense. Sweet and penetrating. I make them offerings of food hard and soft. And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink. I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels. Festooned with golden lotus. On the paving sprinkled with perfume. I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers. Salutation. As many atoms as there are. In the 1,000 million worlds. So many times I make reverent salutation. To all the Buddhas of the three eras. To the Dharma. And to the excellent community. I pay homage to all the shrines. And places in which the Bodhisattvas have been. I make profound obeisance to the teachers. And those to whom respectful salutation is due. going to do the Refuges and Precepts in English so that we can recite them in call and response. And Alf is going to help me with the positive precepts. I'll let you know. Homage to him.
Homage to him,
The Blessed One.
the Blessed One,
The Worthy One.
the Worthy One,
The Perfectly Enlightened One.
the perfectly enlightened One.
To the Buddha for refuge I go.
To the Buddha for refuge I go.
To the Dharma for refuge I go.
To the Dharma for refuge I go.
To the Sangha for refuge I go.
To the Sangha for refuge I go.
For the second time to the Buddha for refuge I go.
To the second time to the Buddha for refuge I go.
For the second time to the Dharma for refuge I go.
For the second time to the Dharma for refuge I go.
For the second time to the Sangha for refuge I go.
For the second time to the Sangha for refuge I go.
For the third time to the Buddha for refuge I go.
For the third time to the Buddha for refuge I go.
For the third time to the Dharma for refuge I go.
For the third time to the Dharma for refuge I go.
For the third time to the Sangha for refuge I go.
For the third to the Sangha for refuge I go.
Precepts in English in call and response. I undertake to abstain from taking life.
I undertake to abstain from taking life.
I undertake to abstain from taking the not given.
I undertake to abstain from taking the not given.
I undertake to abstain from sexual misconduct.
I undertake to abstain from sexual misconduct.
I undertake to abstain from false.
I undertake to abstain from false speech.
I undertake to abstain from taking intoxicants.
I undertake to abstain from taking intoxicants.
Sadhu,
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 sadhu.
sadhu.
With deeds of loving kindness,
With deeds of loving kindness,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With open-handed generosity,
With open-handed generosity,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With stillness,
With stillness,
simplicity,
simplicity,
and contentment,
and contentment,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With truthful communication,
With truthful communication,
I purify my speech.
I purify my speech.
With mindfulness clear and radiant,
With mindfulness clear and radiant,
I purify my mind.
I purify my mind.
Going for refuge. This very day,
This very day,
I go for my refuge
I go for my
to the powerful protectors,
to the powerful protectors,
whose purpose is to guard the universe,
whose purpose is to guard the universe,
the mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
the mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
Wholeheartedly, I also take my refuge
Wholeheartedly, I also take my refuge.
in the Dharma they have ascertained,
In the Dharma they have ascertained,
which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
Likewise, in the host of bodhisattvas,
likewise in the host of Bodhisattvas.
I take my refuge.
I take my refuge. Om Arapachanadi.
Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi. Om Arapachanadi.
Just before we end, I'd like again to thank the technical team, thank everyone that's watching, thank everyone in the room, and particularly Adhisthana and Mahamani for talking, for Alfie for helping with the precepts, and for Esther for leading the mantra.